What's up guys, this will be my first ever solve critique video, and the scrambles will be in the description. So this is a critique on Frank's 15.52 average of 5, and for the first solve it was a 16.07, and he did y2 so he did y2z for inspection, and he did orange cross, I think. So he did D, R prime F, R2 U2, L prime U2, L prime for cross, and that gave him a nice first pair over here that I don't think he did, but I'll show a better solution potentially. So actually I'm blind and I can't really see CN stuff, so how about I just show a better solution on white so my viewers can also understand what he did. So okay, it's on yellow, but whatever. So what he did was dr prime f, insert this, and then this, and then here he did that to probably just insert this corner. I don't know why if he didn't do that pair, but anyways, better solution that I have in mind is, let's see. Yep, you can just do D prime R prime D2 F R2, and it sets up this free pair that you can actually cancel into like that, and the rest of the solve will just be very great. But he didn't do that, and he just did the solution that he did, which was y2 z into this solution, which inserted this edge, but now he did a different pair, I'm pretty sure. So he did this pair, which is solved like that, which isn't good. It's better to just rotate and then solve it like that, or solve it like that from this angle with the RUL, instead of just pairing it up and then rotating. So he didn't do that, and he just did pair up, rotate into insert. And then next he had an LU pair, so here did U2, L prime, UL, U prime, U prime, RU prime, R prime. And he did it like that, which isn't a great finger trick. Either just do L prime, UL, U2 with double flick, or L prime, UL, U2 prime with double flick. The U2 way is a little bit better because of reload reasons. The reload here is smaller, and it would look like that. But another solution that I recommend more is just Y and then SR2 S prime, or rotate and do RU instead, and both of these are better than just doing RUL. And another thing to point out is you can actually solve it in 4 moves like that, and it would look like that. So F prime, R prime, F2R, aka F2 prime, R2 prime, R prime, F2R. But once again, he just did something like that. And the next pair he had was U, Y prime, RU, R prime, Y prime, U, R prime, U prime, R. And I think it solves this pair. So this solution was fine, honestly. He did U, rotate, insert, which is fine. He could just do FU prime, F prime at the end, but it's optional. And then here he did U prime, U2 prime, so obviously it's better to do U instead, but he probably knows and he just messed up. And next he had this pair, which he solved like that, which is honestly a good solution, except it's a little better to just do sledge, insert the pair, when you already have it at this EO anyways. So if it's not going to get you a dot, then just do this solution. Or if it's not going to prevent you from getting a cross solo, just do that basically. But he just did this, which isn't that much worse anyways. And he did OLOL and GC perm, which he did like that. So I think I'll show a better out for the GC perm that he could have done. So here at this AUF you can just do that, and it would give you AUF skip, but he didn't do that. So once again, the alg is put over here, and it's a little bit better, faster overall, regripless, and lower move count, and less risky than RUD if you use the, because RUD it's kind of hard to finger trick it correctly, and using finger trick it correctly causes you to need a lot of push moves and double pushes and pinch or whatever, and just doing this avoids all of that with a less move count and a faster execution. So yeah, that was solve 1. Now for the second solve, I think it was a little bit better solution wise. U2 L prime D R prime F prime L for cross, which is good. And then he had this pair, which he did with L U L prime U L prime U2L paired up insert. And instead of doing that, you can just rotate and do that, which is obvious, but he didn't do that for whatever reason, ended up doing that. And next he just had U prime U U, so redundant AUF, don't do that. And next he had this pair, and this is actually the same case as before. You can just do that, or you can just do that, and both of them are better, or you can just rotate and do that. But he did the same solution that he did before, but this time with a double flick. And then here you had U2 U prime L prime U2L Y prime L prime U prime L. So this one, instead of doing that, you can just do L prime UL S prime L S, and it will look like that. Or you can do L prime UL S prime L fat F. Okay, I think I just messed up the cross, so let me fix that. I don't know what I did. I'm obviously not color neutral, so somehow messed up the whole cube. And let me just undo this. So once again, the time was a 17.56. He did this, had this pair rotate, then U prime U U, this pair, and then U2 U prime L prime U2 L, that, and instead you can just do that, which I said before, or you can just do that and then do a fat F at the end to get a F2 Gen F prime case. But anyways, just did that, and up to here, instead of doing that, you can just do that, but he ended up rotating after anyways. Well, he didn't rotate because, well, he did rotate because it was an LU pair like that, but yeah, you get the point. Instead of doing Y prime L prime UL, you can just do insert with fat F prime L fat F, and then the next pair will be rotationless. So I had this pair, and then OLAL, and this gives you a G term, but I recommend it better out, so just do hedge and then insert the pair. And in my opinion, it's better, but unless you were trying to avoid diag, doing this is better. But it looks like you were trying to avoid diag, so you just did that. And then for PLL, you had a GD perm, which you did U prime, and just do U2 prime, either with Edo or with double flick, or just do U2, both of them work. And for the GD finger trick, I'd recommend pinching here, and then rolling R3 like so. So yeah, the second solve was clean, overall pretty clean, except for the first pair and the third pair. So yeah. Okay, so for the third solve, Frank himself pointed out that he could have gotten a double X cross, but he didn't do that. And it was a 12.98, which is pretty fast. Anyways, he did Y2, D prime B U L D prime F prime D. I'm not going to show the X cross because he already knew that if he did that, it would be an double X cross, but he didn't do that, and he did. He just did what he did, and then next he had D R U prime R prime D prime, which messed up this cross. So apparently it wasn't planned. So yeah, rip. If you just did that, it would have been so much better, and it would give you another free pair. But yeah, he just really just messed up the solve, and then here. What he had was U prime L prime L prime U Y prime U L U L prime, and Y U prime L prime L U L prime U. Okay, so you just did that and then that, and obviously instead of doing U Y prime U, you just do a U2 Y prime, and up to here you can just do. There's a couple of solutions that you can do. So here you can do F U prime R U R2 prime U prime R F prime, which would look like that. But you can also do from here, you can also do L, U prime, L prime, U2 prime, just insert it like that. But once again, he just did something like that. So overall, I see that you have a habit of doing redundant U moves and rotating when you shouldn't be rotating, and rotating in places where you shouldn't be rotating, and you should put the rotation in another spot, if you get what I mean. So you should always rotate at the beginning of a pair instead of rotating in the middle of a pair. And next, he just had this pair, which is pretty standard, and what I would do in this case. And then next, he had just had this pair, U, U. So once again, redundant U moves, but here's something I'd like to point out is you can do that, which would give you cross, so you can do that, which would give you all cross edges oriented, and it's only 7 moves. Oops. So I intend this to be a ZBLS/AUF trick, because normally you can put it over here and do that. And this actually gives you corner solve, so basically rip. And instead of doing that, he just did that, and then he had this all. And instead of doing this alg, there is a better alg. You put it at this angle and you do fat f r, fat f prime, u prime, water prime, u prime, r, u, n prime, like that. And you would do it like that. Can't really turn on this RS3M. Yeah, I can't really turn on this RS3M. Yeah, I'll just do it on a different cube. So here's a Guhong. Okay, you get the point. Jaden McNeil recommends this. What you did was fine, but it's just an option that you should try considering because it is 0.3able. And he just had an A perm. So yeah. Okay, so for solve number 4, YZ D2R2 prime FR L2 prime is the cross. And it actually solved this cross and this cross, which is pretty interesting. But yeah. D2R2 prime FR L2, a pretty nice cross solution. And then he had U, U, so once again redundant AUF. And then he had L prime UL, U2, L prime UL. So U2 prime actually, not U2. And like that. For this case, just keyhole like that or from here. But he just did LU, which isn't that much worse, but keyhole is usually better. And next he just had U prime U, so once again redundant AUF. I think it's a habit that you should really start fixing. And he did RU prime R prime Y RU R prime. So like that. And instead just insert with fat F R fat F prime. So something I noticed is that you rotate unnecessarily when you can do analysis like this. And you probably already know it, but you just probably didn't practice it enough. So yeah, you should start practicing it more. But anyways, he just did that. And then he had this pair. And then another redundant AUF into that. So the solution itself is fine, but just avoid redundant AUF. And then next he had U prime, U prime, R, U prime, R prime, U2, U prime, sledge. And then U prime, U. Wait, what did he even do here? So I might have been inserting the wrong corner. Yeah, I meant to insert this corner. So obviously redundant AUF once again. And then here he just had this OLAL. So he did U prime U. Once again redundant AUF, so that's like 4 redundant AUFs already. And it's really a habit that you should start fixing. So the OLAL alg was fine. Then he had a GA perm. So already 3 GA perms, rip. Okay, so for the final solve of the average, by the way, since I didn't say the times for all of them, the average of 5 with all the reconstructions will be there, and this solve was a 17.09. So he did x2, r prime, f2, r prime, f prime, b prime, d prime, which is something that I would probably do. So r, f2, r. I might see a better one actually. D2FR U prime L, the F prime also works from this angle. And yeah, mostly it's probably something that I would do. So R prime, F2, R prime, B prime, F prime, D prime. Pretty much what I would do. And next he had this pair. So he did, okay, once again the redundant AUF stuff. So he did U, well, not this pair, but I was looking at the wrong pair. So anyway, he has U, R prime U R, U, L prime U L, U prime Y, L, U L prime. So this pair, he obviously messed up somehow and didn't intend to do that. So yep, I think I messed up what I was trying to do. Let me undo that. Okay, so I must have inserted it using this way and not the other way. So how I would undo that is by putting it over here. Okay, yeah, so you had this pair, and instead just do F wider U prime wider prime F prime from this angle, either with regripping or not regripping, or you can just rotate and do that, which is also very good, but once again he did this very redundant and inefficient solution. And then he just had a next pair, which was done with R prime U prime R, L prime U prime L, which is a good solution this time. And then next he had U2 prime Y, into this pair normally. And a better solution, you can just put it over here and do F inverse X E F prime, insert the pair. And that actually orients all our cross edges, so we can have a cross OL, but he didn't do that. And he just did that. And he had this pair. And here's a nice CBLS. You can just do hedge, insert the pair, and it's actually faster than double sexy. Well, it's faster than AUFing and double sexy, but well, they're pretty much the same speed. So yeah, it's a cool EO trick to know. But anyways, he just did that. U2, U prime, once again redundant AUF, OLL, and then into a V perm. But instead of doing that into a V perm, instead of doing that, why did I just drop the cube? Almost dropped the cube, I mean. So instead of doing that, from here, you can just do this alg, and it avoids diag and is a better alg overall. So F, U, F prime, then insert this pair with that. So he should have just done that into an F perm, but instead he just did this into a V perm. So for the last layer, U2, U prime, and then V perm. So yeah, this was the final solve of the average. And I hope this critique helps. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And by the way, for my viewers, let me know if you have any suggestions for critiques in the future, if this could be improved in any way. And yeah, thanks for watching. One last thing that I forgot to mention is just it's just a conclusion of what you should do. So learn better last layer algs. So far there were around 2 algs that you could have improved during last layer. And during F2L, avoid redundant AUF and learn some better algs. And yeah, that's pretty much all. Your finger tricks were mostly fine, other than just U prime obviously, but that isn't a finger trick problem, it's just a recognition problem. So yeah, fix your recognition and don't do U prime U, tough stuff like that, or U and U prime, and learn more F2L algs and last layer algs, and you'll be good. And also, side note, this is a little bit optional since you still average 15, but consider planning more than just cross +1 in inspection if you already do that. And try to take note of other pairs, because on that third solve you ended up missing a double X cross and you actually broke up a pair that was already solved. So keep that in mind in the future. And yeah, thanks for watching.